Hi, and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined by Bevan,
Hey, hey.
bringing you some more Dallas season 3, episodes 6 to 10. Tommy, roll the credits, and we'll get right into it. So the first episode, episode 6 of season 3, is called The Dove Hunt. Um, Bobby and Ray are in the beginning. They don't really say anything. They're talking about Miss Ellie. She's at the doctor. Um, getting tested, like her breasts are for a breast tumor that she found or whatever.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's sort of like the setup to her little story arc that happens but yeah, and it sort of gradually builds over the next few episodes. But this is the start of it. She feels a lump, through her self-examination,
yeah,
and she's
yeah, and
going to
this
get
is
it checked out.
this is a really cool story. Yeah, it plays over these 5 episodes, kind of. Well, I guess like a random, like there's like one or two that like it doesn't, but like a little thing will get mentioned or something.
Yeah, it's sort of in the background because Ellie's still waiting to hear results and like stuff like that. They do sort of set it up quite well,
They do, yeah.
yeah.
The doctor says it could be a cyst. They set up was it mammography? Um,
Yeah, I think that's what he called it.
memo.
Yeah. I actually like this scene in a way because it seems like almost like an informative session because he sits down and like he explains things like I don't know, it just reminds me like old TV tends to make sure that the audience understands the process of what's happening, whereas I think a lot
Yeah.
of modern TV will assume things or just sort of like summarize it really quickly. I just found it's yeah, just something I found interesting like rewatching these where it almost feels like the doctor while speaking to Ellie is actually educating the audience a little bit on like how it
Yeah,
rolls.
it's nice that they brought it up. This is I think I want to say 1979 still, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, I
I
think it
think
is.
so. It's really cool that they brought it up this early and like we're making awareness of it this early
Yeah.
on.
And even talking about the
Um,
difference between the cysts and a tumor and how they
mhm.
are different. They're different in even examinations apparently. Like just stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah,
So we have that going on, and then we have Kristen comes in to JR. I think, I think that they're at her apartment, right? Or no,
I think is this the part where she's giving him the back rub?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Is that the office?
no. I'm pretty sure that's the yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the office because
Okay.
yeah, because he's on the phone to everybody as well.
Yeah. Jock comes in, JR gets right off the phone and wants to
Yeah,
like go
it's
to
the
lunch.
office. It's the office. That's right. Because Kristen tries to like ward him off the sort of oh JR's on the phone and everything like that. Because I'm pretty
Because
sure
he's
he's talking
doing
about
this, yeah, he's doing the shady shit behind Jack's back.
yeah. I'm pretty sure this is he's gone. I think he's talking to that. Oh God, I can't even remember that oil expert fella.
Von
He's
Leland?
been no. That's the banker. Um, it's like it's not Lance, but I can't remember what it is. Sorry, we said it the other. It was one of the ones. He was that evaluator that they had mentioned prior and stuff like that. But basically, he's in the Southeast Asia. He was talking to him about the Southeast Asian stuff.
Right. You know me in business deals. I'm like,
I'm terrible.
um,
I remembered this guy's name like half an hour ago.
Sue Ellen makes a remark about adopting. Oh, is this the clip we're putting in,
Yeah, so
right?
like Lucy comes in. It's like a din it sort of flicks to dinner after you have these few establishing scenes there where Jock's like, oh, and you see JR sort of like busy. Um, what was it? And then they sort of transition over to like, dinner time and everything like that. And Lucy mentions to Bobby that, well, they're in the parlor, I think. And Lucy mentions to Bobby that she's been talking to her mother and that her and Gary and that Valian and Gary had sort of reconnected and were looking to meet up. And so, like, she was just sort of talking about like getting her, like, the hope that, like, the whole family thing. And
Yeah.
JR comes along and is like, oh, they've broken your heart before, blah, 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 blah. and it's sort of the same back and forth there about poor old Valley and Gary. And then I don't know, Sue Ellen just has that line where she's just like, you know, sitting there just reading her magazine, and it's something, yeah, it's something like, uh, "You're so concerned about the children, JR. If only you had adopted me instead of married me."
Hey, Bobby, where's Pam? You all have another argument?
She's working late, JR.
Short of cash, are you?
Bobby, I want to show you what's in the school paper. An article on the cheerleaders. Look, they mentioned me.
Oh, they say something pretty nice there. Must be a mistake.
Bobby, I saw Mama today.
Where?
She came by after school.
Was everything all right?
Yeah, she and Daddy have been in touch. I think they might get together again. We could be a family.
Don't count on that, sugar. Those two have hurt you before.
With your help, JR.
Now, don't use that tone of voice on me.
JR, just take a drink and go talk to Sue Ellen. Honey, why don't you wait till something definite happens till you get your hopes up?
Well, it is definite, Bobby. I mean, they've been in touch.
Well, you see, I just don't want to see you hurt again, that's all. And sometimes these second tries don't make it either, you know?
So, and then we have Bobby. Bobby like doesn't trust Alan Beam. He
No.
says that he's not going in the right direction. He mentions, I guess, to Jr. I didn't write like
Yeah.
who they were talking to. I'm like, I watched this a while ago.
I think that
Um,
they kind of were just talking amongst themselves about it. Like, it was just to establish that Bobby thought that Beam's a bit sus.
yeah.
Because there wasn't
Ellie,
really a whole... Yeah.
Ellie mentions that they should go off together and go hunting because they need to bond. I guess because they haven't been getting along ever.
This is just so she can avoid... This is so she can go for her doctor's appointments and everything. Like,
Right,
she actually plays it really well. Like, she's not wrong. Like, they are all super stressed out, and it would help.
right.
But, like,
And I guess they
she's
used
also,
to go
like...
on these hunting trips, so she's kind of like two birds, one stone type thing.
Yeah. I can go find out what's going on with me while they're all away, and I don't have to answer stupid questions. Well, not stupid, but,
And JR is not happy that Ray is coming along.
No. He immediately gets jealous and goes, "Oh well, I'll make sure I take the time off work," even though he just spent the last few few lines saying he couldn't leave. I think even Sue Ellen just smirks at that. That just the constant little smiles that she has when like she knows that he's just pandering.
Right. They go into the store, like I guess in that little weird town that they're going hunting in, and like they mention that I forget how it gets brought up, but they mention that they're the Ewings or whatever, and then the one guy's like the Ewings, what? And you're like, I guess he has a vendetta against them, the usual.
Yeah.
He calls a dude named Tom. They mention Jock or whatever, and that they're going hunting. And he's waited 32 years to get
Mm.
revenge on Jock
Yeah.
Ewing.
They do leave that very open, and then it cuts to the ad break.
Right. And I'm always like, well, we already have Digger that has a grudge against Jock. And now this guy has a grudge against Jock? I don't know.
Well,
And I don't think
Digger's like
it's never
Digger's the
really
blood
clear.
type thing.
It's never really clear what he did to Jock, I don't think either.
Who,
But
this
we'll get it. We'll
Tom?
see.
I
Yeah.
think no. He says it late. He says it later. I'm pretty sure.
All right. We'll see. Um, he goes to the bar, and he says, face me, Ewing, like, you know who I am. And Jock's like, I don't know who you are. Like, I've never seen you in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and then Ewing bar fight,
Yeah.
and then they leave. So they kick some ass and roll out.
Pretty
Um,
much.
I forgot about, well, I don't think it happens in this one, but I forgot about what Pam goes through again. I totally forgot about it for some reason. Pam gets home. Ellie mentions going to the dock. Pam's kind of suspicious of what's going on. She knows something's going on. She knows when Ellie's acting weird.
Mm.
Because she knows her well. Sue Ellen obviously doesn't really know Miss Ellie well, even though she's been living there longer. She doesn't even, she has her own issues.
Yeah.
Um, Sue
Definitely.
Ellen, Sue Ellen blows off the baby again. Pam and Ellie tend to the baby. She's like, "You're the nurse. What the hell?
Yeah.
Not my baby." Hashtag not my baby. Um, Pam knows something's wrong with Ellie. Ellie still doesn't say anything. Then we already like are at the little hunting thing where the guys end up getting shot at.
Yeah, they sort
Bobby's
of get like there's like these weird little traps all placed around the camp and stuff like that. And then they start getting shot at. So,
yeah, already
it's great. Yeah.
shit starts. Bobby screams are down there. They think it was a mistake. They think it was like some hunters thought they were game or
Mm.
something. Um, they fight a little bit. Jock ends up getting shot. The shooting continues. JR gets shot in the leg. So it's
Mm.
kind of funny. Like everybody was concerned about JR getting shot. You know, who shot JR? He already got shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody cared.
No,
But,
not at this point.
but I guess it was like they know who shot him in this one. They
Yeah,
didn't know
well,
who
like the
shot
Who
him.
Shot JR is like a whole mystery. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, I still think that's the craziest thing, but we'll get into that, you know, at the end of the season because this is the
Yeah.
season. Um, they've kind of figured out who's doing it, you know, because there was, you know, they had trouble with the dude Tom earlier. I guess they're like, oh, I guess it's this guy. Um, Tom's son seems upset about it because he's like, Dad, are you like trying to kill these people? Like, I thought we were just gonna
Yeah.
like scare them off.
Yeah, that was it. He's like, no, he tried
So
to shoot at you. And it's like, I mean, you were shooting at them already.
yeah, and I feel like this guy was like more upset that he didn't remember his face, like he didn't remember who he was. So he was more
Yeah.
upset about that than like I feel like if Jock's like, yeah, I remember you, you know, sorry about that, you know, but you know, Jock's
Well, that's what
stubborn
he
and all
says
these men.
even. Like, yeah, that's even what he ends up saying later on. Like, we'll get to. But yeah, like, because they do have
Right,
that
right.
sort of face to face.
Yeah, we're almost done this one. I mean, not too much happened with it, with you know, it's just like the shooting and stuff.
There's just
But
a
we do
few
find out that
establishment things. And it's sort of,
yeah, with
I think it
Amanda.
also, yeah, it establishes Amanda. And it
Yeah,
also, I think, starts to sort of show that Jock isn't the sort of, like the big honor, like he's done shit he's not proud of, you
he's
know?
done some
Like,
shit. Yeah,
yeah, and because up until this point, they do kind of very much portray him. Like, yes, okay, there is that thing where he kind of allows JR to do what he wants to do without, as long as he doesn't know too much. There is that obviously about Jock, but otherwise, he's very much like the sort of honorable patriarch, you know. And
the
here we
groundwork
find,
for the groundwork for these episodes are really laid out very well.
yeah,
Um, because it just sets up like a whole spew of things, like a domino effect through these episodes. It's kind of cool.
yeah.
Um,
This
Jock
is long
admits to
game writing. It's proper long game writing. Where
yeah,
and yeah,
Jock admits to JR that he was married before to an Amanda Lewis. 2 years after they were married, she had a nervous breakdown. She's at a mental facility. He never told Ellie. He basically says if he dies, can you take care of Amanda for me? Do set up a trust fund or a trust for her.
yeah,
Um, and JR says he'll take care of her. Jock
yeah,
and JR are resting when Tom comes over. Apparently, they say that Jock took his farm from him,
yeah. Okay,
um,
so like Jock
and
wanted to buy the
upset that he didn't
land.
remember his name.
Yeah, so like he wanted to buy the land. This Tom fellow has refused, and according to Tom, the guy, um, Jock then sort of blacklisted him in Texas, so nobody would buy his crops, and all that sort of
Oh,
jazz.
is that what he did?
Yeah, apparently, Jock sort of choked him out,
Mm. And I'm
and
like,
Jock
dude,
doesn't remember.
if it was 32 years ago, you don't look the same sometimes 32 years ago.
Yeah,
Like
I think.
If you look at Jim Davis 32 years ago, he don't look like he does in
Yeah,
these episodes.
I
So it's
think
kind of
it's just
funny.
more that like he didn't even recognize the name, like because he does say his full name and he doesn't recognize it,
Well,
and he sort of
32
says it was,
years.
mm. But
That's
you
what
know,
I would
it's
be
just
like,
that
dude. I'd be like, dude, seriously, it's 32 years. I'll give you $100. Like, what the fuck?
no, but that's the thing though. Like I think that's the thing though. Like Jock even understands it towards the end though. Like that's why he looks him in the
Yeah,
eye
he
and
does.
you know. Like
Right,
it's just
right.
that thing of like squashing small people. You don't bother to learn their names, but their whole life changes.
True. True. That's true. Um, Jack says if you're going to do it, as Tom holds
Mhm.
a gun to his head.
Yep.
Um, and then he just pulls back and he's like, I'm not a killer. I'm like, after all that, dude, you almost killed them. Whatever. Jack says he owes them and then lets him go, apologizes, in his own way, I said. He doesn't really like say, I'm sorry. He just,
No, he
you know,
doesn't. He
the
doesn't.
Jock way. They get home and he reminds him to set up Amanda's trust fund. He reminds JR. That's all I got.
Yeah,
Anything else for you?
it was pretty much like I mean, it was kind of a standalone in a way, but it's not really. I think it was like a good establishing episode, and I think it characterizes Jock just a little bit more, other than the the daddy vibe, like the
Yeah.
patriarch vibe. It does humble him a little bit, and even
Sets
Jr.
up,
Jr. is kind
sets,
of even put off by these revelations. You can see it in the
right,
way like Hagman carries the scene, and he's not judgmental necessarily. He's just shocked. He's a little shocked himself. Like he's like, oh
right,
wow. You can tell that they never even considered that their parents were with other people. Maybe they knew about Digger, obviously, but it's like mum and dad have always been mum and dad.
right. So we have season 3, episode 7, The Lost Child. Bobby meets a boy, and Bo Middens, is that the guy's name?
I think that was what it was. Yeah.
Um, JR questions what Sue Ellen is up to every day, because she's just leaving, doing her own thing, and he doesn't know. So of course he has to hire somebody to follow her, and we find
Yeah,
out
he does.
she's seeing Dr. Elby. Um, and then he finds out like Dr. Elby's like a player, kind of. Um,
I mean,
he's with a
is
different woman
supposed
every
to
night.
be. I mean, all they imply it heavily, but everything we see with Dr. Albee, he's pretty professional. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he could be with a different woman all the time, but with his clients, or not clients, patients, like, yeah, he probably
yeah,
doesn't really date all of his patients.
I doubt that he would be dating any of his patients because that's
Right,
not something you're allowed to do. Like,
right, for sure. Yeah,
and
even
but
back then,
Sue
you really weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah, but like even so though, though obviously we'll go over it more as LB makes further appearances and stuff, he does become very much a rock for Sue
Yeah,
Ellen
yeah.
in her own
I
development.
believe he,
So
I believe he hangs around for like 2 seasons recurring.
yeah, I loved quite a few of their scenes and he celebrates her victories with her too. He gets very excited
Mm,
when she has a breakthrough. I actually think the way they wrote him was just like, like we don't need like a psycho doctor or anything. We need like a
right.
proper health type professional approach.
Because if you compare them, it's funny because like I almost don't know how like different psychiatrists were back then. Like I don't know if they're because if you remember Dynasty season 2, Nicholas, what was his name?
Tuscany.
Nicholas Cicciani, thank you. I'm watching the show and I still can't remember his damn last name because I'm watching too many shows. But anyway, Tuscany is very like screaming in your face. Like I like he in the one episode I just watched recently. He said to Crystal, he's like, you're not the only one that lost a you're not the only woman that ever lost a baby. Like right after she lost her baby, like dude, you know. I
Yeah.
and then we have Dr. Elby who handles things totally different. So I'm like, were there just different types of doctors back then? Like the one is clearly like
Well,
a
I
dickhead.
mean, like generally, like for something like Sue Ellen's problems. I mean, I don't know how it was in 1979,
Right,
but
right,
like Sue Ellen would most likely be seeing a psychologist, not a psychiatrist.
right,
Like,
right,
same vibe. Claudia might see a psychiatrist from Dynasty. That would make sense because she's got proper mental health issues. And not to say that Sue Ellen doesn't have like the issue of say like, her alcoholism and she hasn't got problems, but
yeah,
like Claudia's actually been in like not just in sort of like she's been in a proper mental ward, like I'd
right.
say someone like Claudia would see psychiatrist, but generally someone's like Sue Ellen with her what she's doing, that sort of thing, that's psychology.
Okay.
But I also don't know how it was running back in the late 70s either. I mean, it might have been a bit more interchangeable. I'm not sure. I'd have to
Yeah.
do a little bit of like research into American psychological.
Right. So this boy, Bobby's like all excited that he hired the dude with this boy. I guess it's something that he wants, like a father-son relationship or whatever.
Bobby's getting
Pam comes
plucky because
out.
Pam's pregnant.
Well, Pam comes out and she's like upset about it because she never did tell him the other part of the story because
No,
she has
she
poor
didn't.
communication issues. Um, JR wants Kristen to get the detective on the phone to find out about Dr. Albee, so I already went over that. Um, so Sue Ellen, like during the Dr. Albee thing, she says she wants to be a good mom. She doesn't want to be dependent on anyone. She wants to learn how to be independent, and she's kind of like almost, I feel like, trying to somehow leave the Ewings on her own,
I think it's
and
like where she
mentally prepare.
realizes. Yeah, I think it's just that thing of where she realizes that she actually has like, not all of her problems are just from JR. She knows that there's stuff going on because she talks about like her feelings and like how she sort of doesn't really have any desire to connect with anyone.
Yeah.
Sue Ellen! Oh, I wish we'd known you were going to be in town. You could have joined us for lunch.
Well, Sue Ellen's been kind of busy lately. I doubt she could have spared the time.
We were entertaining some clients. You would have enjoyed it.
I never interfere with my husband's business.
You know, Sue Ellen, this job has turned out better than I expected. JR is a terrific boss, and the business is very exciting.
I'm so happy you found your little niche in life, Kristen.
Have you found yours?
JR certainly thinks I have.
Oh, I think a married woman with a baby to look after has an itch. Where are you off to, honey? Another committee meeting?
Back to my niche, JR.
Pam and Cliff meet up. They talk about his OLM work, and that
Mm.
he says something about, like, he mentions like something about maybe the Senate might be stirring up because that's what Alan Bean's working on, like
Yeah,
stirring up
yeah.
the word that he might be running. So
So
he's
they're still,
thinking
even
about
though,
anything.
so yeah, like so even though JR is still plotting that whole fake campaign thing, they're still using the pretext of Beam running around trying to do it legally. So
Right.
like finding evidence that Cliff's been accepting payoffs and favoritism and yada yada yada, like corruption.
Yeah. Pam sees that Bobby's like bonding with this boy. His name's Luke, which I forgot to mention. I think I forgot his name. Um, Bo, his dad, ends up getting hurt and like taken to the hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Kristen and JR run into Sue Ellen in like downtown or whatever, and like they just have like an awkward meeting, and then like Sue Ellen goes off and she's like, "Do you think she knows?" Kristen's like, "Do you think she knows?" And he's like, "Do you care?" That was a fun little thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and let's see, McBride calls. That's the detective.
Yeah.
Is that? Do you know if this detective hangs around McBride? Is he the same one that he always uses, or are you not sure?
I'm actually not sure. I
Yeah, I'm not either.
No, I don't
Do you
directly
know how
remember on
like
that one. No.
you know how Alexis uses Mr. Hess through like the whole
Yeah.
series of Dynasty? That's what
Like even when
I
she
can't
hates
remember.
him.
Yeah, because he's not doing his job.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, he's trying, but she gives him like an hour, and then he's like, "I don't have anything." But anyway, um, something about they talk about the rattles. Is this like rattlesnakes? I'm guessing like there's rattlesnakes around.
What
He's,
scene is this?
this is like right after the detective scene. This is at the
Oh,
ranch.
okay. So I think they were saying, well, weren't they just talking about it's a setup. It's a setup for Pam.
Oh right. Oh my God, I didn't even put that together. Yeah, he
Yeah,
said
no,
they
that's
said
just the setup.
the
So
hot
that's
weather
just
brought out the rattles. I didn't even
yeah,
think
yeah.
of that. That is so funny. I'm so special. Um,
Yeah, no, I
Jock
was trying to. I'm
asks,
like,
oh,
what? And I'm like, no, that's right. It's just a side mention because it's just sort of
right,
the
right.
setup for
Because
yeah,
that's what happens soon. Jock asks about the trust for Amanda. JR says he'll take care of it, and he still puts it off. Like, why is he putting it off? Like, I don't understand. Just make the damn
yeah.
trust.
Well, he does tell him later, but yeah,
Why didn't Jock just do it?
I don't actually know why Jock just didn't do it because but
I
I know
guess
why
he's like
JR says.
trusting his son,
I
but
think
I don't
maybe
know.
maybe it's just because it's under all of the corporate. Like I don't even know. I don't even know. Probably because it
Like,
has corporate money. It'd be corporate
I
money, wouldn't it?
almost, I almost feel like if Jock would have done it himself, like he would have probably found out what JR was up to. So you think what JR would just do it to knock, you know what I mean? Like if JR or if Jock did it, he might find out about the ranch being up for,
Well,
you know,
they probably wouldn't just have
yeah.
capital, as much
So
capital sort of thing. Yeah,
he's being like really ballsy then, you know, like I feel like he would have found out.
I think he just
Um,
also is a bit overconfident that he can keep just palming him off.
right. Jack and Ellie have a sweet moment, and she says that he's her best friend, and I thought that was so sweet. I was like, that is so nice. But that means problems are coming.
Yeah,
Um, we have that Bo can't come back, and Luke wants to do the work that for his dad, which is kind of cute. Um, so Ellen tells John Ross she would be a good mama, and then Jr. says, "Yeah, that's real sweet," because he's like stalking her from behind. Um, And she ends up saying, like, our relationship is sick. I like that.
yeah, because it's
Um,
true. Cause, yeah, he asked her or something. Oh, I have husbandly expectations, not so much sex, but he's talking about something else, I think. And she's just like, no, like husband and wife share their life together, and they support and
right.
care about each other. And he's like, well, what did you think ours was? And she's like, ours is sick. Like,
Yeah. Um, Bobby wants Luke to come to dinner, but he's like, I want to go eat with the other guys, like the other workers, because he's been working with them all day, which is cute. Which I'm surprised they would let him with the rattles being around. But whatever. I don't work on a ranch, so I don't know.
I find the whole, I do like, don't get me wrong, like it's not done badly, but I just find the whole thing with Bobby here to be a little bit like lame.
Yeah, it is very lame. But that
Like,
ending part, though, does bring a little tear to my eye.
I, you know,
It does every time. Um, so Pam mentions like to Bobby, she's like, "What if I couldn't have a baby?" And she's like, "How would you feel?" And he's like, "You're pregnant, so why ask that?" It's like, um, she wakes up the next day, like he's already gone, riding with Luke, and she's like, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'm pregnant. Why not go for a horse ride? Or where this is heading." And like I said, I forgot about this. I forgot that she lost yet another baby. Oop. She
yeah.
rode the snake attacked the horse, which you said the snake set up, and I didn't even think of it. That's so funny. Because I was too concerned with I'm like, is the rattles snakes? Because they didn't say snakes, they just said rattles, and I'm like, I guess rattlesnake. I don't know.
I would presume. I mean, it did do the little thing, anyways, before the horse.
Well, yeah, that part. Yes, I knew it was a snake then, but when they mentioned it, I didn't. I wasn't positive. Um, she falls off, loses the baby. Detective calls JR. We already went over that. Seeing Dr. Albee, blah, blah, blah. Um, no, Bobby tells Luke that the baby died, and Luke says it's his fault that his mom died. I guess that she died at childbirth. I forget the story.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. He says, my mum died to like give birth to me, sort of thing. Like, and that, yeah,
I like this line too. When JR confronts Sue Ellen about Dr. Albee, she's like, "What matters most? That if I might sleep with him, or that I might tell him something you don't want him to know."
yeah.
She's so good. I love Sue Ellen. Bobby visits Pam, brings flowers. She says no more babies because she finally tells about this damn disease that we know about since episode 1 of this season.
Yeah,
Um, and then
finally.
Bobby like clicks pretty much immediately about John Ross. He's like, "What about
Mm,
John Ross?" And then she like fills him in. Like she's like, "I did tests. We did what I did what I had to do."
we did what we
Um,
could. It's good so far,
yeah.
but we basically got to keep an eye on him.
Digger and Cliff visit Pam. Cliff and Digger talk. He says Cliff tells him that John Ross is his. Digger says that the Ewings will keep him. We'll never get a hold of him. Blah blah blah. Um, Cliff says that he will get him back if he lives because the baby might die since he might have that disease. I was like, oh damn, that's true.
Yeah,
But at least he's realistic, you know. Luke tells Bobby Bo wants to take him to Montana, and he says that he'll never have a friend like him. Bobby and Cliff have it out about the babies, or the baby, right? John
yeah,
Ross.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just John Ross.
I don't know why I put babies. Um, Pam comes back already. This is a quick episode. It's like lose your baby, and it's done by the end. Um, Sue Ellen actually has like a really nice moment with Pam, which is probably the first one I think ever.
Yeah, where she
um,
genuinely comes up and is sorry for
yeah,
her. Yeah,
yeah, and she's like, "How do you feel?" And Pam's like, "Empty." I guess that's how you feel. Luke comes to say goodbye, and that's where, yeah, like he like shakes him and like whatever, like shakes his hand, whatever, and then he goes off, and then he runs back. That always brings it to. I'm like, oh, this kid, even though he has a dad. So how do I even feel that? But whatever.
I know.
It's
It's
the
just that's
acting.
what I
It's the
mean. It's just
acting. But I get it.
it.
It's
It is
cheesy.
the
Whatever.
acting. The acting's not bad or anything. I was just like, I'm like, I'm sorry, but like Pam's the one that just lost the like. I know it's a way for them to sort of have Bobby mourn the death of the kid and accepting
Yeah,
loss and all that sort of stuff. But it's just like so lame. Like
it
it's not
is. It
even
is
badly
very
written. I'm
lame.
just like, oh, I remember this kid like that when I was watching it.
I actually looked this kid up because I was curious to see what he did today, and he was
Yeah.
really just like a full blown child actor. He like acted
Ah.
from like he was only in like episodes of things from like 1971 to like 1983, and that was it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So he's
Yeah.
probably like a lawyer or a doctor or something now.
Yeah.
All right, now we get to episode 8, Rodeo, with my
Very
man,
good.
my
Yeah.
Dusty. Jared Martin stars as Dusty, which he's from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by the way, which is where I'm from.
Ah,
So yeah,
local.
that's cool too. I could have found him, but he died recently, well, in the past few years.
Could have found him.
Um,
You're like going through his trash.
yeah, yeah, right. And he's like 80. Um, Ray gets a letter from Donna, and you're thinking like, oh, he'd probably open it. No, he goes and puts it in his desk drawer of 100 letters from Donna. What's your problem, man?
I
He's
would have
such
at
a
least read
wuss.
one.
Right? I don't know. He's. We can get that story out of the way because it's kind of quick. So like, he gets with Lucy or whatever. Lucy's like harassing him. Read this
But
letter.
she knows something's wrong, and she
She
feels
knows
like she's
something's
done
wrong with
everything at
him.
first. Yeah.
She's like, she ends up like breaking into his apartment or house, whatever, or just goes in because I think they just leave their doors open back then.
I mean,
She
well, it's
reads
on the
a.
property, isn't it? Isn't the radio on the property? Like Ray.
Yeah, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
it
you see
is.
Ray. Yeah, because Ray comes in when he finds her, and he's still in his rodeo gear.
Okay. They never like show where it is though from the house. If you
No, I
notice,
suppose not from the house, but you do. Yeah, but they do have the workmen
weird.
around everywhere. They do mention that, so it'd be on the property somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I guess close by to the regular house. I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
guess where the original houses were in episode 1. I don't know. No, season 1.
yeah.
Um, and yeah. So first of all, he like called her like this, and she like basically told like the whole letter. Like she's like, dude, he saw in the paper that Donna was getting back with her husband, and Lucy's like, yeah, it's because she was like sick and stuff, and says all this stuff that she only read, like, I feel like she'd only have time to read like 3 words by the time he came in and busted her. She's like, yeah, it says this and this and this in this letter, and you're like, how'd you
Yeah,
get all
like,
that,
oh,
girl?
Sam was sick, and she got back with him to stay with him until he passes away, type thing. That she's still in love with him,
Yeah.
and
But now
like
Lucy must
Lucy's
have
not
like a
wrong,
photographic memory because like she must have looked at the letter and just saw everything and then was able to tell it. Maybe
but
that's
like,
what
yeah,
it
that's true. But like Lucy's also not wrong. Like she's like, she calls it his pride. I'm just like, I mean, maybe it is. That's why he stopped Dingo. I think it's just bullheadedness. I mean,
well,
I suppose
you'll
that
hear.
would be pride too.
I have 100 issues with Ray through his early relationship of Donna, which we'll be getting to eventually. But
Yeah,
uh, yeah.
yeah, I agree. Some of those
Let's
issues
just
are stupid.
yeah, like my first. Well, I we'll go into it later.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, because it's like not for a long time. It's a long time. Shoot, I lost my spot. Oh, rodeo, right? So the rodeo is being built at South Fork, which I
Mm.
kind of forgot. I was like, oh, they're building it there because I figured they just have another rodeo in town that everybody just randomly goes to.
Let me help you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Got an empty table over here. Looks like you've been on some kind of spree.
Yes, I have. Thank you for helping. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Ewing.
What?
Come on, cowboy, on your way.
Hey, just a minute.
Hector, it's all right. He was only trying to help. I said everything is all right.
Yes, Mrs. Ewing, if you say so.
I'm sorry about that.
Are you this Mrs. Ewing?
One of them.
I come all the way from the desert just to ride in the rodeo. So, I expect I'll see you there.
I expect you will.
But no, I
Wasn't
guess
it their
South Fork has it.
sponsors a sponsored event more or less though? Because isn't it the Ewings giving away the prize money and all that?
Yeah, and I thought this was going to be like a regular thing, but they don't have another rodeo in the future. This is
No,
like the one and
no.
only rodeo. Um, Bobby and Sue Ellen end up going to town. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I gotta backtrack a little. JR and Sue Ellen talk. He wants a piece of ass. And she has zero interest. Um, and says something like, I don't know why I have used up his chances with the nurse. I don't know. Oh no, she says you used up your chances or whatever. I guess in the past. I don't know.
For like reconciliation, like he's like, because he goes, oh, it could be good, and she's like, if you just give me a chance, and she's like, oh no, no, that won't be happening.
Yeah. Alan and JR are talking about Cliff for Congress. Gives JR names to help Cliff along with his scheme.
This is also where JR decides that he wants Beam to actually head up the campaign. Because he's like, you know all the info, you could have direct access to the money, essentially, and all that. And Alan's just like, well, he knows that I work for you. He's not going to come near me. And so that's this little setup that's happening at the rodeo that Kristen and JR keep sort of like, saying schemy little things to each other about.
Yeah, this is like it's so funny with this thing going on. I always feel like they tap on it like very little at a time to build
Yeah,
to like a big event.
yeah.
Um, but because it's always like mentioned, like Alan Beam will be in like one scene and then it's like that's it. But in the meantime, I think Bobby and Sue Ellen do go to town because they split when they go to town. I guess he goes to work and she goes off to do whatever. She ends up going to like some diner. But when a hot man helps her in, because like I guess I forget what happened. Does she have a lot of bags or something? And then like he opened the door for her,
Yeah, he's
and
just
then
sort
he
of like
mentioned,
polite. He's just generally polite. It's like a normal everyday exchange, but it's the whole like when you're like struck by someone at first sight, and she is like Sue Ellen does her immediate sort of like pullback sort of thing, but she's
and
struck by him immediately.
he mentions that he's going to the rodeo.
Mm.
Um,
As
and
a
then
yeah, he wants to
also
compete in it.
what's going on during this time is Pam meets up with Digger, and she thinks that Digger is going to go to the rodeo to try to see his grandson.
Mm.
Lots of drama in this rodeo. Um,
Yeah, because she finds out that Digger knows now that John Ross could be his cliffs and all that, and she's just basically like, I know what you're saying you want to do, but you're gonna cause shit. So like,
I guess Bobby was supposed to meet Sue Ellen at this diner place, this food place, because he ends up going there, and then like Dusty's there, and she's like, "Oh, he seems like a very nice guy." And instantly, like even when I watched this episode back in, I want to say like 1999, they had like instant chemistry for me. Like I was like 20 years old and like or 22 or something, and I'm like, I love them.
I actually thought the same things watching it because like I didn't really get into Dallas until the DVD releases, and so when I was seeing it, like yeah, I definitely started to ship them a little bit, but you
And
know,
thank God that he was recurring because a lot of times in these episodes it's like a one and done, like
mm,
but at this time, it was very soap opera format,
yeah,
at
it was
this
starting
point.
to very
Thank
much go
God.
that way. Yeah,
If he was in season two, he probably wouldn't be back. That's
yeah.
what they usually do. Um yeah, so then it's time for the rodeo. JR goes to Kristen. She's staring off at Sue Ellen. And she's just like, she annoys me. Um, and this is where like JR is so confusing. Like he gets mad at her and he's like, my first loyalties are for my wife, family, and child. And I'm like, are they? I feel like they're really not.
Well, it's because he doesn't see what he does. So Kristen sees like wants to have a claim on it all and all that. He's basically just making like it's terrible, but he's basically putting her in her place. He's like, no, if it came down to it, you are a mistress or like
Mhm.
my fun, my playtime. He doesn't, yeah, like
So weird.
Sue Ellen has the status. He has a history with her. Even though he also hates her, he does kind of care about her. He doesn't want to,
It's very weird.
yeah, sort of. It's very sick and weird, but he does.
It is.
And the kid, I think the kid just comes with the package because he doesn't really bond with John Ross until later either.
Right. Well, he thinks it's Cliff, and he don't care about the kid right now
Yeah,
either.
but it's also
Um,
yeah, like it's you're not supposed like you don't sort of flip flop like that on your family, at least publicly, I
right,
guess. You know,
right, right. Then in the meantime, Dusty and Sue Ellen lock eyes already. I'm like, so hot. Um, Pam's worrying that Digger will show up. Lucy tries to see what's wrong with Ray, which we already talked about, so we'll skip that. Then we have all the bull rides. Dusty rides the bull. Bobby rides the bull. I don't know any of this bullshit, literally.
I don't know either.
Like, they're just riding bulls and see who stays on the longest. They do this bull thing where they like catch little, what are they? Cows? Little cows or little bulls?
So
I don't know.
they look. I'm not really sure how the point accrues. It's like all those skills, like how you rope them and tie them, I guess. But and how
So
you ride
sad.
them. I mean, like we have rodeos where I live, and I still don't know
Right.
what they are. I don't really,
I like that one. Didn't they go to I don't know if we watched that. Oh, we probably didn't watch that one yet, but I remember them being that one where they're like, that guy's like, like how they
Yeah,
talk
no, that
fast.
was an auction. That was an auction, though.
Did that happen already?
Yeah. That was a cattle
No,
auction.
I still don't remember. I watched too many soaps, kids. Sorry.
You're trying to keep track of too
um,
many soaps as well. This is
it is
why.
so hard. Um, so Pam wants to go check on the baby. Ellie's like, the baby's fine. She already checked on him. She wants Pam to stay out. Pam's like, well, I don't want to watch Bobby because I'm nervous. I probably wouldn't either. Like, I feel like anything could happen. He could like fall,
Pretty
fly off
dangerous,
and
yeah.
break something. Yeah, it's so dangerous. Digger ends up going. Um, I really wish they would have worked more on this Ellie Digger jock thing. Like they do tap it in these episodes, but I
Mm.
want more. Like I felt like Digger and her, but they made Digger such a deadbeat, which is so annoying to me because I'm like they could have had a really awesome triangle.
I think that's the whole point, though. That is the whole point. That's even like, she knows that and she's come to peace with it and found a life with another person. He never has, and like, even though he's tried, it has never worked. Like, Digger's never gotten over shit.
Right, but I feel like it could have gone on instead of what happens to him soon. I think.
Oh yeah, like, yeah.
I feel like it could have been a thing, especially with the mastectomy
Yeah,
episodes. So Digger's there, blah blah blah. JR. Oh yeah, JR is kind of like up Sue Ellen's ass while she's trying to like be up Dusty's ass.
yeah, because he
And
knows it's happening.
Dusty's yeah, right. Um, and he's very like I don't know. He like they eat together, her and Dusty. Because JR is like distracted by other things like Alan Beam and Kristen being there, so they kind of are with him. Um, and he sees like oh, Dusty says that he's very comfortable with Sue Ellen. So cute. JR sees them kind of getting closer throughout the episode. Uh, oh yeah, I guess Dusty's like really well known in this because like everybody talks about how great he is and stuff.
Yeah, he's a known writer. Yeah, and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff. Because he sounds like he's done the radio circuits. I mean, I think he even talks to Sue Ellen about that.
dude, I got a lot of notes for this one. I'm like, am I done? Dusty says he likes to win. Sue Ellen is a little disturbed by that because JR is similar. um, but she doesn't know him yet. She only met him once. JR sees Digger and Miss Ellie. He's he says he's been sober. Says he's there to see the baby. Oh, Digger. I'm like,
Yeah.
who am I talking about? Um, yeah, like he doesn't say that he's the grandfather, which you would think he probably would, but I guess for Pam, he's being a good
Yeah,
dad.
I mean, like, he's got to keep his mouth shut. It's gonna
He
fall
has
back
his
on Cliff as well.
moments. He
Yeah.
has his moments though. You never know what he's gonna do, which is really that's why I like Digger because I like unpredictable people because you really don't know. And he gets so mad, like he's like, "We need to get that baby," and then he's like, "Earrings will never," like I don't know. It's so fun. Um, Alan and Kristen are hanging out, and this is where the plan begins.
Yeah. Well, the
She
little
yells at
setup to,
him.
yeah. What does she do? I think she makes out that he like groped her or something, and she gives him a good old slap in the face.
Yeah, and she's like, well, it's a whole setup to.
Mm.
I guess they like that's the thing. Like when you set this stuff up, um, you really have to bank on people telling the other person because Cliff wasn't here, and that's the whole
His dad
point. They
was though.
wanted his dad was, but like his dad was doing his own thing. Like, do you think really Digger's paying attention to that? Like, I feel
Well,
like I don't know.
well, when Alan and Cliff end up speaking, Cliff tells him that Digger told him.
Right, but I almost feel like Digger probably wouldn't have. You know what I mean? Because like, who would? Like, oh, Jr. kicked this guy Alan Beam off the. You know, like, I feel like it's a far stretch, but of course, for storyline, it had to work.
True. I mean, like, I guess it has its elements of that, but you're also talking about a raw upper crust social, like, social scene. These were the people at the rodeo who are supporting the cause and like donating money or whatever, or like, because it doesn't seem like just a general competition. Because like, I don't know. I mean, and maybe no, wait, no, sorry, I confused that. I was thinking for some reason it was like not charity or anything, but like raising money because they Sue Ellen mentions that if one of the Ewing boys won, they'd just donate it, but that's just because they
Right.
don't need the money. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Never
Okay.
mind.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Um. So when he kicks him off the ranch, Lucy
Mm.
gets turned on by
Of course she
Alan
does.
and follows him, basically. Um, Dusty and Sue Ellen talk about Kristen and JR. He says he will see her after his next ride. JR doesn't seem happy. Sue Ellen and Kristen talk about JR's idiosyncrasies, wanting what he can't have, and Kristen
Mhm.
don't give a shit. Sue Ellen and Dusty talk about money. He says he doesn't really care about it, that his family's rich, and that he tries to do his own thing and makes his own way, and that's why his rodeo shit is good. He's good with the bulls. Um, she tries to push him away at that moment because I guess she's turned off because that's what she's trying to get away from is like somebody
Yeah,
rich.
exactly. Yeah.
But he's like, dude, you're into me. Stop that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
he
he does
sort of
it in
just
like
tries to normalize. Dusty does try to normalize a few of his own things that he obviously sees her register on. So, like,
right.
he explains, like, no, it's a human desire to want to win. Like, obviously there's other things in life, but it's okay to want to win. And
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. Yeah.
Jock comes in. Digger wants to see the baby. Everybody's, they all seem kumbaya for the meantime. Um, uh, Digger holds the baby. Jock says, "Yeah, he really looks like a Ewing," and that Digger gets heated, and you're like, "Oh, what's this man gonna do?" He gets mad. He hands the baby to Jock and heads to the bar. Bam, gets a shot before he rolls out. And I guess that's when he saw Alan Beam. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. Um,
Yeah.
I almost feel like somebody else. It would have been better to hear it from someone else. Like I feel like Digger was in his own feelings.
It just would have made, I guess, like, just in general gossip would have made more sense.
Right, right. I don't know. It just seems silly. Well, maybe that was the thing. Like if it wasn't Digger, it probably would have been someone else at the party. Like who knows?
Yeah.
Jr. takes Sue Ellen upstairs. And he's like, he wants to bang her because, she's into Dusty and he can't have her. And he's like, smile like I'm that, like you do with that cowboy or whatever. Um, and she said something along the lines of like, why don't you see if my baby sister will oblige? And then he gets all mad and he's like, we wasted too much time with this crap. He's over it. That's all I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
Well, because
else?
that's kind of how that episode ends anyway. It kind of just ends with Sue Ellen
Yeah.
just sitting in the bed.
Being sad as always. Um, Then we have episode 9, Mastectomy Part 1. This is where, so yeah, I guess in the last 2 episodes they didn't really touch on the breast thing, but it brings it back to the dove hunt. Is that one was
Yeah,
called?
it's sort of like what they've started up in the dove hunt.
Which this was really good and very ahead of its time. I almost feel like with this, with how Ellie handled the situation. Because everything comes back clean for her, and she insists like something's wrong, like she knows her body. And these are things like I've seen really pushed in the past like 20 years, but I just can't imagine it being like a huge thing in 1979.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. They did do a lot of like after school specials in the 70s and 80s, and a lot of like, so maybe it was like a hard hitting thing that they were working on back then.
maybe it was more like just the personal effect on it, because I think it's what they do well here is reflect how we perceive ourselves as men and women, and
Yeah,
how our body makes up those perceptions, like, and stuff like that. And you really feel Ellie's terror at changing in any way, like her body,
and
like
she
in stuff like that.
basically saved her own life. Like
Mm.
by
The other way around.
Well, I never really knew how to tell you. But I must have been on the verge of it 100 times.
Tell me what?
About Amanda.
Amanda?
Here I wait 40 years to tell you. And wouldn't you know, it all comes out backwards.
Chuck, I don't understand what you're saying.
Ellie, I'm trying to tell you about my first wife.
Your first wife?
Yes. I was married and divorced before I met you. Her name is Amanda.
What are you talking about?
Well, when I went hunting with the boys a few weeks ago and got shot, didn't know whether I was going to make it or not, I realized I had an obligation to her.
Obligation?
Miss Ellie, she's not a well woman. She had a complete mental breakdown shortly after we were married. The doctor finally advised divorce. I paid all of her sanitarium bills. I figured that if anything happened to me, they ought to be some sort of a trust fund to continue those payments. But I had to talk to you first.
You divorced a woman because she was sick?
No, Miss Ellie. It was on doctor's advice.
insisting. So also going on in this episode, JR spent the night at Kristen's, and he's very upset about it because yeah, he can stay out till 4 in the morning, but he always goes home by the time Sue Ellen gets up. I guess I don't know. Freaking weird. Um, we go back to Miss Ellie. Doctor finds cysts. She says she feels like it's a change in it somehow, and he's like, no, it was negative last time we tested it, whatever. But she just feels something's wrong. Um, JR, oh, I made note. I always like to mention the secretaries. JR comes in and asks Connie if she made the coffee because I guess Kristen doesn't make good coffee. That was funny to me. Um, Jock's there and trying to get this paperwork taken care of for Amanda. JR tells him, he's like, "Oh, I lied. I didn't do that." I'm like, dude. I feel like Jock should have taken over by now. Like, what is his problem? I don't get it.
Well, because JR explains it away as feeling like he's doing something behind his mother's back. And Jock
Right.
sort of goes, oh, okay, and sort of understands. So he's like, have you told Mum? And he's like, well, no, there never seems to be the right time or what have you. And then, but he's like, he goes, I will still do it if you want me to, but it makes me feel like I'm doing something behind her back.
Yeah.
He plays it actually pretty well in a way that Jock still trusts him, despite the fact that he's been, lying. But obviously he doesn't know about the, mortgaging of the property.
Not
So
yet.
yeah,
I think that's later in the season, I believe.
yeah,
Ellie confides in Pam about the cancer scare. She's worried what Jock will do, that she won't, whatever. That he won't accept her if she loses her breasts. Like she's worried about everything before it's even official. That's
yeah.
how sure she is, of this. Pam just basically says, "Trust your love and be honest," which is funny because Pam's not. At
Well,
times,
she also does sort of preface it with the way Ellie has always spoken of her and Jock's relationship. So
right,
it should still stay that way, essentially. But
right,
yeah,
right.
you're right. You don't tell people anything. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. It's
Like,
always easy to get. I said this in another one. It's always easy to give advice, but not take your own advice.
very true.
Um, Jock tells Ellie about Amanda and that she's crazy and all that stuff, and Ellie's very upset. And then I think it was 40 years ago. Is that right? Or they've been
Yeah, I
married
think
for
so.
40 years.
Yeah, he said 40 years.
Um, and she's like, "Are you gonna walk out on me like you did her? Like, what the
Yeah.
hell?"
If I get sick, will you walk out on me as well?
Yeah. Um, very tough. Um,
Well, she's having all those, self like all those issues and like about whether or not she'll, she feels the pressure for so that scene later on too, where Sue Ellen and Pam sort of talk about the men. Miss Ellie feels those pressures too. She just handles it differently, like
right.
because the Ewing men aren't easy at all. I mean, like even Bobby's the easiest, and he still has his dramas.
Yeah. Um, and I like, and the family's all standing around and like, do you know what that's about? Jay was like, I don't know, but he knew the whole
Yeah,
time. Um, I don't. I have Pam thinks it's her fault. Mentions the lump.
what was it? Sorry.
I put Pam thinks it's her fault. Mentions the lump. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure about that one. I know.
Yeah, I don't remember. Um, so Ellen brings it up to JR. She knows that he knows what's going on because
Yeah,
she knows he's shiesty and she just can tell. Um, so Ellen and Dusty end up at the diner together again. Um, and he says the sight of her made him hungry. They're so cute. Um, Alan helps with the stuff for Cliff and the Congress, all that stuff. He starts like getting like
yeah.
signs and shit.
Sets up the campaign, starts putting up signs and everything else. Yada yada yada. Trying to
And see, yeah,
entice
that's
old Cliff to notice.
right, and that's like the only time we see him, and that's what I mean. Like, oh, he does go to Cliff too, and this I forgot about that.
Was that
So Ellen
that
goes,
was that episode? Yeah, and they did
yeah,
have
it's
that chat.
coming up.
Yeah,
So Ellen goes to Dr. Elby. She mentions that she doesn't want to be seduced, and brings up Dusty that she met a man. Alan goes to Cliff, says he wants revenge. Cliff says he doesn't want to run for office, and Alan says he should.
yeah. He's just basically trying to talk him over,
Yeah.
or to
Pam goes with
consider it if the money was there to basically fund the campaign.
right. Pam goes with Ellie to the hospital to get to get her cyst removed. Tells Pam to stay out of it, because she's like, I don't know, it's weird because went with her, so I was confused by that. I'm like, dude, she's just being there for her. But I guess that's Ellie. That's how she's just handling the situation. She's like angry and stuff.
Yeah,
She tells the doctor to do what he has to do. If he has to chop the breast off, like whatever. While I'm out, do whatever you want. That's how I am. I'm the same way. I want to do it all in the one shot. You know what I mean? So you don't have to do it again because it's like more
mm.
mentally prepared.
Yeah. So it's like if
Um,
in case things are worse, then yeah,
yeah.
take it all.
Jack Jack gets there. Says he's sorry that she thinks he will leave her like he did Amanda. So Ellen meets with Dusty again. He says he's there for her. He cares about her. They kiss, and he says he will wait for her, which is so sweet of Dusty. Jack is upset about Ellie, or upset Ellie didn't say anything. Bobby makes JR spill what he knows. Pam tells Lucy about Ellie. Ellie is out of surgery. They had to perform a mastectomy, which, I mean, the episode title said it all.
Yeah.
And that's the end
Yeah,
of
so
part
they
one.
ended up having to perform their mastectomy, and the doctor tells Jock that Ellie was actually right. Her breast was full of cysts, and she had a
Hmm.
cancer nearby. So they took the whole thing.
Yeah. So, episode 10, season 3, mastectomy part 2. Oh, and I like the voiceover too. Didn't it say like the conclusion next week or something like
Yeah.
that? I'm
To
like,
be
ah!
continued next week.
Yeah. Pam talks to Bobby about Ellie and the baby. I guess her baby that she lost.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
Jock gets home, no word if they got all the cancer at this point. JR and Sue Ellen talk. Um, she says she's gonna what? She says she's gonna live. Oh, she says that. Oh yeah, he says to Sue Ellen that she's gonna live. That Miss Ellie.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Lucy's like acting real weird. She can't eat anything. I love this for Lucy. This is a good storyline for her too. I like this.
yeah.
She doesn't have anything to do with Ellie. She seems to care a little bit, but she just has
She
something in her
cares. She's
head.
just friggin' terrified.
Right. Jock visits Ellie. She's basically sleeping. He says, "I love you" when she's sleeping. Pam and Sue
Actually,
Ellen.
I actually found like with this episode particularly, there was like obviously there was still stuff kind of going on in the background, but so much of it seemed like background noise compared to every part with Ellie in it, just because it was so heavily focused on that. Obviously, it's mastectomy part two, but like I found that like every so often, like the show will stop and just do like a couple of episodes that are just really about one character's entire struggle,
Right.
or like yeah, like I
Yeah,
mean,
they
I
have
know they did.
little side things going on, but yeah,
Yeah, I think
although
it does
this is
break up, I
mainly
guess, the
about
drama
Ellie.
a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, it does. Very much so. Even with the trio of
mm,
Jock, Digger, and Ellie.
yeah, yeah,
Um, Pam and Sue Ellen talk about talking to Lucy. I like that Sue Ellen said the child dislikes me. Um, and they talk about beauty and being the property of a Ewing.
mm.
That's what Sue Ellen said. Something like you're the property. That was a fun conversation.
Well, it's
I
just
like it.
because they're coming from completely different angles. Like Sue Ellen seems to think that Pam's like naive, but Pam's just like, no, ultimately, men like we're different, and women don't exist for men. You don't have to
Right,
be a pretty little package wrapped up that Sue Ellen thinks you do have to be. But she goes, Sue Ellen sort of counters it with like, well, you do with Ewing men, okay? Like, you can say what you want, but you're actually married to a Ewing right now, and they're different.
yeah, which is funny to me too, because like I feel like Jock's not that way, and neither is Bobby. But Sue Ellen, of course, is the one that has the worst of it. So I think that's
She does
probably
have
why
the
she's.
worst of it, but all of them are kind of controlling in their ways. And JR particularly,
Yeah,
obviously, he's a mental case. But like,
he's a mental case. He is for sure.
Bobby's the one that actually allows challenges to it though. Like if he had his way, Pam wouldn't be working.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah,
Like but he's it's that generational thing, like you've got like Jock who simply just doesn't understand it. Like
yeah, yeah.
why would you work if you didn't need to? Especially when it comes to like he even says it, I don't know what's wrong with staying home and making babies, sorry, raising
Yeah,
babies. And then you've got poor old bloody Sue Ellen who's got like friggin' narcissist as a husband. So
yeah, yeah.
everything is just what it is there. And then Gary himself is like a train wreck, like who he's like the opposite, where he doesn't measure up to those qualities, so he just
Right,
sort of fell apart. Obviously there's more to Gary than that, like he's his own character too, but like
right.
all the Ewing men are quite difficult to be in relationships with by the looks of the things anyway. Like Ellie may have gotten
Yeah,
it the easiest, and it doesn't even sound easy.
yeah, right. Um, I like this part too. Jock says like, why couldn't it be him? Like he's truly his acting's stellar in this episode as
Yeah,
well. And like everything that he has to deal with, like
yeah.
I feel like he got the shit end of the stick. I feel like he should have been nominated for an Emmy as well for this performance.
God, Ellie. What's wrong?
Go away, Jack.
I want to help. I can't leave you like this.
Nothing fits.
I'm telling you, it'll be all right. It doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter? Because I'm not young anymore. Don't you think I care the way I look? Don't you care?
I care for you, Ellie. You. I'm just so happy that you're alive. Nothing else matters. Nothing at all.
Doesn't it? Chuck. I'm deformed.
Trying to
I don't
care
think
for
he
her while
was.
she's actively pushing him away as well is like really
Right.
it was interesting to see. And then when Digger comes along, the way she lights up again, and then like
Right.
it all, yeah, a lot of stuff happens with Ellie here, and
Yeah,
I
and
think that
Jock.
ends,
And
yeah,
Jock.
and Jack, and it just like
Like
that
his
ends.
reactions is
Mhm.
cool. Pam finally talks to Lucy, and Lucy's just like she thinks she can get it, so she's like worried about that. Um, Doc says that the cancer's all clear, they got it all. So Ellen calls Dusty from the hospital. I guess she wants to meet up with him
Yeah.
again. I'd be addicted to Dusty too. Nothing wrong with that. Go girl. And he makes her feel good because he's the best guy ever.
Mm.
Doc tells Ellie the good news, and she looks away. She's very like standoffish, and because she's still in her head, she's like, "He won't love me anymore." You know. Pam tells Digger about what Miss Ellie went through. Digger's like, "I want to go see her," and then you basically find out that he's still in love with her, which we all knew by the way he acts.
I think everybody knew that
Um,
about Digger.
yeah. JR hears Jack and Ellie talking about Amanda. She doesn't want to hear it. Jack mentions the trust fund, says he will put it off till Ellie is better.
Ellie's better. Yeah. I'm not really sure why, but
Yeah,
it
right?
just, yeah, it just seems a little weird. But I think it's just like overall trying to drag out well, not necessarily drag it out, but like JR, if Jock looks at the money and the books, he's gonna know something's up. So, you
Yeah,
know, it doesn't even matter that it's about a trust for Amanda. He's gonna look at the money and be like, why is our house mortgaged?
right.
Like,
Digger visits Ellie, gives her wildflowers, which brings her back to like the times of when he and her, I guess, were together, or that she
she used
loves
to pick them in the fields.
wildflowers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That scene is so sweet. And like
it
he
is.
calls her, oh, Ellie, you're so beautiful. And she's just like,
I
am
know.
I, Digger? I'm not the same anymore. And he's just like, nonsense. Just that,
I
and it's so
know.
sweet.
And Jock gets there,
He actually leaves them to have a
and
moment.
yeah, he did leave them. Um, he wants to know if she. Oh yeah, Digger wants. Oh yeah, like doesn't he like say his feelings and like he's like, "Do you have any feelings for me?" Is that where that happens?
He's basically asking her if she's still in love with him. And she's like, it's not fair,
And
Digger.
she's like, "That's not fair." Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, because if she says that she cares, then he's going to hold on to it and never move on even more. Like, you know what I mean? It's that thing of like,
Mm,
of course she cares, but bro, I'm married to someone else. I have been for 40 years. You've got to accept it.
yeah.
And she still
Jock.
cares about him though, because even after all that, she's like, I'm glad you came to see me.
Right, and Jock gets upset with her because she defends Digger after because he's like, "Yeah, I know he was here and
Mm.
whatever." And then she just basically tells Jock off, and she's like, "I don't want you around right now. Get out." And then the next scene is Ellie's getting home, and we find out. I think it's been like 3 weeks at this point. We
Yeah,
find
I
out
think
it's
they
like
said
3 weeks
something.
later.
They say it in dialogue, I think, to sort of say the time transitions.
Lucy continues to act weird. Pam and
Mm.
Sue Ellen talk to Ellie about reconstruction surgery and Lucy and all that stuff. Sue Ellen calls Dusty. Um, he says he'll be at a hotel and he understands like if she doesn't show up because she's like she doesn't know if she wants to go, whatever.
Yeah.
Bobby
She's all
talks
still
to
up in the air.
JR. Bobby talks to JR about Alan opening headquarters for Cliff for Congress. This is where Bobby and Jock find out too what he's doing, and Bobby agrees to keep it hush hush because Jock says it's okay because he said we got to do whatever we can, we know whatever we got to do to stop Cliff.
He sort of says too that he doesn't feel that what Cliff's been doing is all that different to what they're doing, and it's just
Right.
interesting. So like they think that they found out everything with JR about this scheme, and they just don't. I mean, this is one scheme. He's got another one brewing, bro. Like,
And Bobby was working on like a legal way to do it where they didn't have to do schemy things.
yeah, and that comes down to those payoffs, and other bribes and yada yada yada.
Right, and that's disappointing because like I feel like I wish Jock would have went that route. But I almost feel like too, like with all the pressure that Jock's going through in this episode, kind of helped him make that decision. Like
I think the thing is too is
under
Jock has always
normals,
kind of been that way. He even says that he was
he
kind of like that
has,
when he was young.
he has, but at the same time, I feel like everything with Ellie, he's more frustrated, and I feel like
Oh
that
yeah,
made the decision for him. Where
yeah,
I
man,
think
yeah, that's
if
true.
I
Fair
think
enough.
Bobby would have gotten through to him if it wasn't, the mastectomy going on with and Miss Ellie acting weird in the family drama. I think he
Yeah,
would have.
yeah, that's fair.
I think he would have sided with Bobby. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. Um, where was I? South Fork dinner. Everybody's back at the normal dinner or whatever. Lucy says she's been very busy. She doesn't have time, for anything. I guess. Still pushing off. Bobby and JR bicker, and then Miss Ellie laughs and says the Ewings are back to normal. This is the part that I believe that she probably got nominated. So she was nominated for this episode, Miss Ellie. Barbara Bel Geddes was nominated and won the Emmy for this performance in this episode. And every time I watch this part, it is really like it always brings tears to my eyes.
It's
Um,
heartbreaking.
Ellie's in her room. She's kind of having a breakdown. She's looking at her clothes. Nothing's fitting right. Jock comes in and's like, she's like on the fork. And this is another moment of Jock where, he kills these performances.
Yeah,
She's like, nothing fits her. He's like, listen, I'm just happy you're alive. But nothing else matters. And she's like, I'm deformed. Like, how can, ooh,
how does that not matter?
I can't.
Yeah,
Like, it's so chilling almost.
yeah,
Um,
it is. He's
yeah,
trying everything he can to make like help her, and he sort of it's like he cares so much, he doesn't get it, and she's just hurting.
yeah, so sad.
Just 1 second, 1 second.
I don't hear anything.
Sorry, I just wouldn't have been able to hear you. It was just a plane.
Ah, I'm like, I don't hear anything. I thought maybe the
Yeah,
dog,
no, it
because I
was
heard the
just
dog a little bit ago. Um, so Ellen ends up going to the hotel to meet
of
Dusty.
course.
I love them. Anytime they're in scenes together, I don't care what they're doing. I love them. She tells them about the accident that she had with the baby and all that. He says that he basically went back to his money. He's like, because he wants her.
Yeah,
Love at first sight for these two. Love at first sight. And she says she can't,
mm.
whatever. She's still kind of fighting them off a little bit. Not for long.
She's just scared.
Um,
She's scared. She's nervous. She doesn't, she
yeah,
doesn't
for
know.
sure.
Yeah, it's perfectly reasonable with all the crap she's been through.
Digger meets with Miss Ellie again and gives her more wild flowers. Like he's really winning her over at this point because she's more just fighting herself with Jock. She loves Jock, of course, but Digger's doing the right things. It feels like, bringing her back into the past and like making her feel loved and like a woman, and like just feeling
And
like everything
then
that she needs, which
and
Jacques
then the
really couldn't do
same
for her.
it true,
Um,
but then the same things become present while she's talking with him. So like as she's talking with him
yeah.
and he starts to just tangent off into his hatred over Jock,
Well,
and what
yeah. So
happens?
he starts reminiscing about the past. He says they can go away together, and everything sounds good, and she's all like, she sounds like she might be a little bit interested, and then yeah, he starts
Yeah.
getting weird. He's like, I could have been like Jack, I could have been rich, and then she's just snapped out of her funk, I guess, that she was been in.
Well, he brought her back
Um,
to the past, and she like it's that thing of like, yeah, he made her feel the old way, but it's that thing of like that would just it's almost like the past coming at her in real time again, where she's
yeah,
feeling all these things in the moment and it's taking her back and it's reminding her of how she was, but then she's also reminded of how things were. And Diggo is a drunk and he's still obsessed and he's still bitter.
yeah. Meanwhile, Jack is worried about his relationship with Ellie because she's pushing him away constantly, and he's trying to be there
Yeah,
in every
yeah.
way possible. In the meantime, she confronts Lucy. She's like, "Get up here, we gotta talk." She brings up the cancer, and she's like, Lucy's like, "Why me? Like, why?" And it's like, you don't even have it yet, like
Yeah.
whatever. And then Miss Ellie, responds, "Why me?" And then she's like, basically says, like, she's like, "I'm afraid," and she's like, you got to live with the fear. Like, this is just what can happen. Might not. It might. What you gonna do? Get it
That's
together. She
life.
should have slapped her. Bam. But anyway, she's over it now. It was a nice moment. Ended up being
It
really
was, yeah.
cute. This whole episode was like an emotional one. I probably cried more at this episode than others. Ellie and Jock talk about Amanda. She would have drove him away. Oh, Ellie says she would have drove him away, um, using Amanda as an excuse.
Yeah.
Um, and he holds her, and that's the end. All
It
those
was
five
nice. It was
episodes.
nice.
It was. That
I
was a
like, yeah,
really strong episode. And
yeah.
I'm so glad that Barbara Bel Geddes won for that because I don't know who she was up against that year. I think I looked it up, but I forget.
Yeah.
But she deserved it for sure
Yeah,
because like that
definitely.
was just. But again, I feel like Jim Davis should have been recognized, even if he didn't win, because
Funnily
he
enough, I
killed
remember
it.
when I was first watched I just remember first watching it, and it is actually okay. It sounds really sort of maybe I won't explain it the right way, but it made me actually understand more outside of my own perspective about how we view our bodies as integral to our identities. So, like, I guess if for me, like, and they did it in a really sort of emotional way, it was like it's parts of her that make her it's the sum of the parts that make her a woman. And like men
Yeah.
have this thing too as well, like if something happens to her dicks, look out, it hits the whole
Hmm.
identity thing, blah blah blah. And for me, I think because when the DVDs came out, I think I was still in high school, so for me it was just a really unique. I was just really in love with the way the story was told from a narrative perspective, and it also allowed me to gain a bit of a broader perspective, and
Right,
then
right,
yeah, and actually understand um, this character particularly
right.
more intimately.
Yeah, that's what I love about the stories too. Like I almost feel like Dynasty is a little bit different. I feel like it was told, but I feel like that's more of like a Melrose Place thing, like a shock value, where this is more they really focused on full blown stories in these seasons, in all the
Well,
seasons of Dallas.
I always say that, obviously Dallas gets a bit zany as it goes on, off and on. Not quite to the levels that Dynasty ever got, but I
Right.
always sort of look at the differences, like depending on how you want your story to play out. Dynasty is plot-driven characters. The Dallas is character-driven plots,
Right.
and they are markedly different.
Yeah. And Knots Landing is along the same lines of Dallas.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Writing
definitely.
wise.
But that also comes from the same writing team, so it does. Oh, well, not same,
True.
but the same
Well,
people, essentially,
same
and stuff like that.
creators and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that they would share that. But you're right. Knots Landing is very much more character-driven plots. Yeah.
Right. All right, guys. Well, we'll bring you more Dallas next week. The next 5 episodes. Thanks for joining Queers and Soaps for today. It was very fun to talk about these episodes and get a little bit deeper into them. Subscribe, like, and comment on anything. Let us know if you're liking these things. I don't know. Give us some feedback. What did you like about the series? Did you watch? Did you watch back then? Do you watch now? Do you watch? It's on Freebie. You can watch it on Amazon Freebie. I don't know where you can watch it in Australia, but I'm sure there's somewhere.
I'm
Probably.
sure there's somewhere. I have the DVD, so I don't look like.
Right. I know, same. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.